This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. Uh, Today we will discuss about phenomenology in psychiatry. I think everyone is listening. My voice is audible, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, in my previous class before COVID, I already started about introduction to psychiatry and had to start phenomenology. So today I will teach you about phenomenology. Okay. So, but before going to phenomenology, briefly we'll discuss about some introduction to psychiatry. Okay. So, so psychiatry we know already it is coined by the uh, J.C. Reel. Okay. And it is a branch of medicine that deals with cognitive, emotional, and behavioral disorders or disorders associated with cognition, emotion, and behavior. And psychology means psycho means mind, and logos means study of mind. Okay. And psychotherapy means treatment through psychological means in which a person establishes a therapeutic relationship with the patient. So we already discussed psychiatry syndrome or mental disorder. So why it is called a syndrome or disorder? Because why it is not called a disease? Because there is no exact cause that we can pinpoint. Okay, so that's why it is called a syndrome or a mental disorder with a disturbance either in cognition, that means thought, okay, affect, that means either emotions or feelings. Phonation means behavior or action. So either there may be disturbance in one or more than one of these three, which either lead to significant distress, that means the patient himself feels the distress because of these problems, or because of these problems the surrounding family members or the surrounding community will be having the problems. Okay. And the syndromes, if you go into the causation, you can take it as biopsychosocial model. So even it is extended biopsychosocial spiritual model. Okay. So bio means biological because there will be changes in the neurotransmitters and the circuits. Okay. Psychological. Okay. So because of the psychological factors like stress. Okay. And social, because of social factors like social support from the family, social support in the community, job opportunities, okay, study opportunities. So all these are social factors. So the any psychiatric syndrome uh, will be caused by the interplay between the biological, psychological, social, and then spiritual means. Okay. So we already discussed that cognition means it deals most of the thought disorders. So we already discussed about different sub branches of psychiatry. So there is a forensic psychiatry which deals with the legal aspects of psychiatry or psychiatric aspects of legal medicine. Okay. Uh, and there is a child psychiatry which deals with child and adolescent people. Okay. There is geriatric psychiatry which deals with uh, elderly people beyond 65 years. Okay. There is addiction medicine or addiction psychiatry which deals with substance use. Okay. There is community psychiatry which deals with the psychiatry manifestations at the community level. Okay. So there is one more consultation liaison psychiatry. So or it is also known as general hospital psychiatry. Okay. Which we are following in our ashram hospital is general hospital psychiatry, where if the patients in the medicine and surgical ward, where the psychiatrist will go and consult there and see the patient. So that is known as consultation liaison psychiatry. So it is a psychiatric illness in medically ill. Okay. So it is a subspecialty of psychiatry concerned with medically and surgically ill patients, also known as psychosomatic medicine or behavioral medicine or general hospital psychiatry. So other sub branches we already discussed. So because these are important, because now there are DM courses in child and adolescent psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, okay, community psychiatry. So we already discussed Philip Pinel, or some people will consider Johann Weyer as the father of modern psychiatry, and Benjamin Rush is considered as the father of American psychiatry, and Sigmund Freud, who started about analyzing the uh, psychic or characteristic or personality of the uh, persons. So he was the one who first started analyzing various behaviors, various thoughts, various emotions in detail. That's why he is considered as father of psychoanalysis. And three Nobel Prizes related to psychiatry, most of which psychiatrists has contributed is Julius Wagner Jauregg. So prior to the introduction of antipsychotics, and prior in the 19th century, uh, the patients who used to have most of neurosyphilis, okay, because there is no penicillin at the time. So the those who are having primary and secondary syphilis, they used to develop tertiary syphilis in the form of neurosyphilis. So this neurosyphilis can be of various. It can be tabes dorsalis. It can be general paralysis of insane. So one of the or it is cerebral gamma. Okay, in case of general paralysis of insane, the patient will develop mental deterioration, that is dementia. He may develop delusions. Okay, and there will be some paralysis will also be there. So most of the psychiatric asylums, what we used to call psychiatric hospitals are at the time as asylums, are filled by these patients, okay, because of their psychiatric manifestations in the form of delusions and dementia. So this psychiatrist Julius Wagner, he introduced malaria therapy to those patients. Okay, so we already know fever therapy is a very good therapy for syphilis before the introduction of penicillin. So by introduction of malaria therapy, most of the patients got discharged from the asylums because neurosyphilis got treated. So that's why he got Nobel Prize in 1927. Okay, next is Igaz Moniz. So we already know uh, we are having if you take our brain, there is a reptilian brain, and avoid there will be mammalian brain and frontal lobe, which is very most developed in humans. So this frontal lobe is responsible for our behavior, for our cognition, and for our most of the emotions. But at the same time, this frontal lobe is also responsible for psychological problems. Have you heard the man by name Phineas Gage? So prior to that man, everyone used to think that frontal lobe is useless. It's simply is not. It's simply there in human brain. But Phineas Gage is a railway worker. Okay, so he while he was working, suddenly a rod went to his brain. So, but he was not succumbed to death, but so it destroyed the frontal lobe of that person. So prior that accident, the Phineas Gage is a very sociable person, very kind and very respectable person. But once after that brain injury, frontal lobe injury because of rail accident, so he developed callousness. Okay, he used to come late to the work, and he doesn't used to respect other people and all. So then it came to know why he has developed this type of behavior after accident. Then they came to know that it is the frontal lobe impairment which caused due to railway accident has caused it. So since then, frontal lobe is regarded as very important part of human brain. Okay, so specifically for psychological disorders. So Igaz Moniz, for the first time, he is a psychiatrist as well as also neurosurgeon at that time. So he removed the frontal lobe of those people who are having severe psychological problems. With this, some of the people got treated. So then so he was given Nobel Prize in 1949. But later on, by using these techniques, many neurosurgeons have used it even for minor psychological problems. Till now, also there are some specific neurosurgeries are there. or also we call it as psychosurgeries, which are used for treating the severe, okay, resistant mental disorders, incapacitating mental disorders, okay, where and they are usually done very minutely, okay, so without causing much danger. And Eric Kandel in 2002 got Nobel Prize for his discovery that our memory is stored in the neurons through neuroplasticity. So we already discussed it. The feature of general patterns of insane includes grandiose delusions, mental deterioration or dementia, and confabulations. So the answer will be all the above. So coming to mental disorder, we already discussed that mental disorder is a disturbance either in cognition or affect or cognition, either causing significant distress to subject or to the socio-occupational functioning, okay, or that is known as disability. So lucid interval, many of you know where will be the lucid interval found. Otherwise, you can see in extradural hemorrhage (EDH). Okay. So lucid interval is also seen in insanity. That means even in psychological disorders. That means, for example, if you take bipolar disorder, during either episode of mania or during episode of depression, the person will have significant distress or objective impairment. But during in-between periods, the person may be completely normal. Even in schizophrenia, if the symptoms are occurring in the form of episode, the in between the episodes, the person will be completely normal. So that is known as lucid interval. So this is a very important MCQ question repeatedly asked in the NEET. Most common mental disorder. Okay, it is anxiety disorders. If you take as a group, okay. So most common, another MCQ commonly asked is the most common substance of abuse. So most of the people will write alcohol, but no, it is nicotine. Most common substance abuse is nicotine. Most common mental disorder is anxiety disorder. But if you take specific each disorder wise, the most common specific mental disorder is major depression. Okay, followed by alcohol abuse. So the more common psychiatric illness in the world is anxiety neurosis. If anxiety neurosis is not there, then you can go for the depression. So in case of above 60 years of age, psychiatric disorder in India is mostly due to. So because most of the things elderly means dementia. So no, even in elderly people, the most common specific psychiatric problem is depression. So briefly we'll discuss about, already we discussed the differences between psychosis and neurosis. So the main important difference is reality testing and insight. So reality testing means whether the person feels whether the thing happening in the surrounding is real or unreal. Okay, I already used to tell you an example. Okay, a psychotic patient builds a house. Sorry, a neurotic patient builds a house on the tree or in the air. A psychotic patient goes and lives there while the psychiatrist collects the rent of that house. So, in case of a neurotic patient, even though he is having some abnormality in their thoughts or emotions, he feels that is not correct, that is not real. But whereas a patient with psychosis, he whenever he has some disturbance in his thought or in his perception, in his vision, so he can't differentiate whether it is real or unreal. So whatever coming to his mind, he feels it as a real. So that's why he goes and lives in the house which is in the air. Okay. So while a psychiatrist collects the rent for it, that means psychiatrist used for this problem, psychiatrist is collecting the money as a fee. Okay. So this reality testing ability to differentiate between real and unreal things. So sometimes we used to hear someone calling us our name and suddenly we will see back. Okay. So, but there will be no one will be there. So we feel that, oh, it is my imagination happening in our brain. Okay. But a patient with psychosis, what he feels, someone is really there who is not visible to them and called him by his name. Okay. So that is how the reality testing will be there. So reality testing is absent in cases of patients with psychosis, whereas it is present in neurosis. Insight, we already discussed it. So whether the person knows that he is having the problem or is not, because the person feels the what is happening in the surroundings or what is happening in the mind is real, so he doesn't feel that it is wrong. That means he doesn't feel that he is having insight, so he doesn't go to the psychiatrist by himself. Whereas a person with a neurosis, he feels some abnormality in his thoughts and emotions, and he recognizes it because he knows the difference between what is real and what is unreal. So thinking like this, feeling sad or thinking in a negative manner is not correct. We have to go and get help from a psychiatrist or from a senior. So this way of insight will be there in case of patients with neurosis. So all in all, there are four typical psychotic symptoms, which includes H-triple-D. Okay, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized speech, and disorganized behavior, including catatonia, which we will discuss in detail. So because of absence of reality testing and insight, the person will have poor judgment and the personality will be deteriorated. So very, very important, they used to previously ask the what are the types of psychotic disorders, schizophrenia, okay, manic depressive psychosis, which now is known as bipolar disorder, depressive psychosis, okay. So all these are psychotic disorders. All other disorders, anxiety disorders, adjustment disorders, OCD, dysthymia, somatoform disorders, conversion disorders, all these are neurotic disorders. So if you go, the differences between neurosis and psychosis is insight. Okay. So impaired insight is evident in schizophrenia. Okay. Whereas psychosomatic disorder, anxiety, neurosis, PTSD, these are all neurotic disorders. Delusion. So delusion is a type of psychotic symptom. So it is seen in either mania or depression or even in organic disorders like delirium, but not present in neurotic disorders like obsessive compulsive disorder. The differentiating features between neurosis and psychosis is insight is preserved in neurosis, lack of insight is present in psychosis, personality and behavior is preserved in neurosis. So lack of insight is not a feature of panic disorder, which is a neurotic disorder. Hallucinations are seen in all except anxiety because it is a neurotic disorder. So we'll go into classifications, okay, because we don't have a specific causative factor, so we will go in the syndromal approach. So that means we diagnose the patient having a specific disorder by the presence of some specific criteria in that person or some specific signs and symptoms, that is known as syndrome or syndromal approach. Okay. So we have two types mainly. One is maintained by the WHO, that is ICD, International Classification of Diseases, which also maintains the approach of diseases even for other disorders other than psychiatry, even for other medical and surgical disorders. Whereas that followed in America, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatric Psychological Disorders is only followed in America. So as of now, ICD is having 10th. Of course, now 11th edition is going on, beta version, but it is not fully accepted by the WHO. Maybe next year or the next year we will get the ICD 11. Okay. So in case of ICD 10, it is developed by WHO in 1992, and it follows alphanumeric system. That means it contains the disorders are numbered both by the alphabets as well as by the numbers. So F01 to F91. So for example, if you take F0 disorders, it all contains organic disorders. F1 disorders, it contains all substance use disorders like that. Okay. DSM-5 is the 5th edition. So it is developed by American Psychological Association, which is contains only psychiatric disorders, not other medical and surgical disorders. So this actual classification has been removed in DSM-5, but it is important for general understanding how we will treat or we will diagnose a psychiatric disorder in a holistic way. So Axis 1 includes typical psychiatric disorders. Axis 2 includes what is the character, what is the personality of the patient prior to the development of current psychiatric disorder. So axis 2 includes the personality or personality disorders and presence of intellectual disability, or also known as mental retardation. Axis 3 includes the medical condition. Okay. Axis 4 includes psychosocial and environmental factors which influence for the development of the current psychiatric disorder. Axis 5 includes general assessment of functioning. Because of current psychiatric disorder, the how much the patient has lost the functioning ability. Okay. So, for example, if a patient who is having a specific anxious personality since his adolescence, okay, who is at the age of 30 years, okay, has developed depression, and he is also having comorbid bronchial asthma, and the depression has happened because of loss of job, because of the corona or something else, because of which the person is not able to function well even inside the house. So we can say from this axis 1 he is having depression, axis 2 he is having anxious avoidant personality disorder, axis 3 he is having general medical condition of bronchial asthma, axis 4 we say that the psychosocial factors in the form of loss of job, okay, axis 5 because of which he has lost functioning. Okay. So, however, DSM has removed this axis classification, and this general assessment of functioning has been replaced by the assessment of disability. That means WHO disability assessment scale. So, this we already discussed. So, DSM-4 classifies the psychiatric disorders in diagnosing the patient on multiple axes. Of this, axis 5 represents the global assessment of functioning. So, coming to the disorders, okay, we will discuss the disorders in the way how it is classified in ICD. Okay, so the F0 disorders includes organic mental disorders. Why it is called organic mental disorders? Here we can pinpoint out the cause. So every psychiatric disorder will have the cause in the form of either disturbance in neurotransmitters or disturbance in the neural circuits. But in case of organic mental disorders, we can definitely pinpoint out by doing structural imaging and MRI imaging, okay, or doing some blood tests and all. So, for example, if you take delirium, so delirium is a type of organic mental disorder. Even though it has specific syndrome, it is caused by the underlying problems. For example, hyponatremia, hypoglycemia, head injury, okay, even atropine, excessive intake of atropine can cause delirium. So even continuous placement of patients without proper ventilation and without proper sunlight and all, the patient will develop delirium. So here we can pinpoint out the cause, and we have to treat the underlying cause to overcome the manifestation in the form of delirium. So that's why these type of disorders are called organic mental disorders, which include specifically ICU delirium, okay, dementia, amnestic syndrome. So these three are considered as the organic mental disorders. So for example, in case of dementia, if you do brain scanning, you will see there will be typical cortical atrophy. Okay. So amnestic syndrome, Korsakoff psychosis, which happens because of excessive use of alcohol, which later, because of vitamin B1 deficiency, Wernicke's encephalopathy will finally land up in Korsakoff psychosis, where there will be deterioration of mammillary bodies. So if you do MRI scanning, there will be deterioration of mammillary bodies. Even in other psychiatric disorders, you will also see the changes, but the changes are not evident. We have to go for higher level of investigations like functional MRI or PET scan or SPECT to find the changes at the very minute level in case of occurring in other types of psychiatric disorders. Whereas in organic mental disorders, they are easily evident through normal scannings and normal investigations. So even substance use disorders can also be considered as organic mental disorders, because here also we can pinpoint that the psychological problems has occurred because of taking alcohol, because of taking cannabis. The patient has developed psychosis. Because of taking uh, uh, amphetamines or cocaine, the patient has developed hallucinations, which we will call it as cocaine bugs, formication phenomenon. So here we can pinpoint the cause of the disorder. So substance use disorders can also be considered under organic mental disorders, but we will discuss separately because they are very much important and treatment will be different. So next comes the psychotic disorders. So we already discussed the psychotic disorders where there is absent reality testing and absent insight with the presence of hallucinations, delusions, disorganized speech and disorganized behavior. So which includes schizophrenia, delusional disorder, acute and transient psychotic disorder, and schizoaffective disorder. So we'll discuss in detail. Then comes the mood disorder. We already discussed a psychiatric disorder is it because of problem either in the thought function or in the emotional function or behavioral function. So if the emotional function is impaired, then we consider those disorders, those psychological disorders as mood disorders or affective disorders. So where there will be bipolar disorder, where there will be alteration of manic and depressive episodes. So that's why it is also called manic depressive psychosis previously. Or only depression, that is major depression. Dysthymia, continuous depression, cyclothymia, okay, with the depression, with alternating with episodes, but not up to the level of hypomania. So neurotic disorders includes various disorders like anxiety disorders, stress-related disorders, dissociative disorders, somatoform disorders, all other disorders. Okay. Then behavioral syndromes. So what are vegetative functions? Okay, or biological functions? We know there are five biological functions, which include sleep, appetite, sex, bowel, and bladder. So if there is a disturbance in any of these, we will consider them as a behavioral syndromes. So the either in the problem of eating disorders like anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, even obesity, sleep-related disorders, insomnia, hypersomnia, parasomnia, and sex-related disorders, either hyposexuality or hypersexuality or paraphilia. Okay, that is perverted sexual disorders. Then comes the personality disorders. Personality disorders means even though the person may not have evident psychological problems at present, but throughout the life, the person may be having some deviation from the normal usual personality or usual character or usual psyche. So this will be very evident by the interactions with the other people or interpersonal problems with the other people. So those are known as personality disorders, which we'll discuss in detail in the later classes. Then comes the subspecialties, child psychiatry, which includes mental retardation, but now mental retardation is outdated term. We have to use the term intellectual disability. When IQ is either less than 70 or if the person is having difficulty in adaptive skills. Okay, and if the child is having difficulty in development, either in the form of language or in the form of scholastic skills or in the form of motor function. Okay, so if speech and language or reading and writing disorders or motor functions, okay, or pervasive developmental disorders in the form of autism, Asperger's, or autism. These are all called as autistic spectrum disorders, okay, and behavioral disorders like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, tic disorder, nocturnal enuresis, okay, seasonal social affective disorder, seasonal affective disorder. In children it is separation anxiety disorder, sibling rivalry disorder. So all these are childhood psychiatric disorders in childhood and adolescence. So cognitive disorders, these organic mental disorders, they are also known as cognitive disorders. So delirium and dementia are examples. So delusions are seen in the following except delusion is a psychotic symptom. So it won't be seen in neurological disorders like anxiety disorder, but seen in dementia, depression, and mania. So coming to the class first, phenomenology. So what is phenomenology? So phenomenology means study of signs and symptoms which the patients present, okay, which will help in the diagnosis and treatment of psychological disorders. So phenomenology means they are symptoms and signs seen in psychiatric disorders. So first we will go into the most important consciousness, which is also very important in the neurology, okay, or in general medicine. So consciousness, of course, other people will use the term sensorium. So most of the time when you are posted in general medicine, you used to see the postgraduates talking about the person is in altered sensorium or the person is in encephalopathy. Okay, so or impaired consciousness. Okay, so most of the times they are caused by the metabolic changes like a hyponatremia or a hypoglycemia. Okay, so that's why they are termed as metabolic encephalopathies. Okay, altered sensorium or impaired consciousness. So before going, so what is meant by consciousness? Okay, when will you say a person is conscious? So a person is said to be consciousness. I hope that everyone of you are awake and everyone or you are listening to my lecture. So that means you are not sleeping, you are awake, and at the same time you are aware of what is happening in the surroundings. So you are listening to the sound coming from the laptop. So that means you are aware of what is happening in the surroundings. So this is the consciousness. So consciousness includes two cycles. One is sleep awake cycle and another one is awareness cycle. Okay. So sometimes what happens, we even though we may be awake, but we may not be aware of what happening in the surroundings. We may not be focusing on what happening. We will be in our own mind, thinking about something from the past or something about the future. Okay, so a typical consciousness means the person is completely awake and completely aware of self as well as environment. Okay, so wakefulness and awareness of self and environment. So this consciousness disturbances can be divided both by qualitative as well as quantitative changes. So before going into the qualitative changes, which are utmost important for us, we'll discuss about quantitative changes. So coming to quantitative changes, the most important is any disturbance in consciousness. Okay, we will call it as clouding of consciousness or impairment of consciousness. Okay, so if it is at minute levels, the person has to put more focus, more effort to get to what is happening in the surroundings. So that is known as clouding of consciousness. Okay, so for example, if we are if we doesn't have proper sleep yesterday night, now we are feeling sleepy. But in order to listen to the lecture, we will put more effort. Okay, so but if this is happening pathologically, okay, then it is called as clouding of consciousness. So where the patient attends with the effort to the surroundings. So drowsiness means whenever there is no stimulus, the person goes into the sleep. So, for example, most of you now will be sleepy and all, drowsy and all, not listening to my lecture. But when suddenly, if I speak louder, so suddenly you will wake up. Okay, so that is the drowsiness. So drowsiness means whenever there is no stimulation, you will go back to sleep. Okay, if it then sober. If the sleep is deep and very repetitively uh, stimulus is needed for that to become aware for the patient. That is known as sober. And the final one is the very deep stage of impaired consciousness. That is known as coma. So we will discuss about different types of coma. Okay. So different types of coma occur based upon what the injury has happened to the brain, whether the injury has happened to the upper part of the brain or whether the injury has happened to the brainstem. So, but coma means it is there is complete loss of wakefulness cycle. That means the patient is completely asleep, and there is loss of complete awareness. That means the patient is not aware of what is happening in the surroundings. So the patient is unarousable as well as eyes are closed. Okay. So, but there is another type. Also, we call it as vegetative state or coma visual. Here, only the awareness cycle is disturbed, whereas the sleep awake cycle is intact. So, during nights, the patient closes eyes as asleep, and during daytime, the patient is open eyes. So that means his sleep and awake cycles are running, but his awareness cycle is completely blocked, because of which he is not aware of what is happening in the surroundings. So this type of coma is known as coma visual or alpha coma or coma with open eyes or vegetative state. Okay. So eyes open with comatose shows sleep-wake phenomenon, awaken from coma but not gain completely the awareness, wakefulness without awareness, also known as alpha coma. So this happens because of damage to the upper part of the brain, whereas the brainstem is completely intact. So next we'll discuss about the coma happening because of damage to the specifically pons, brainstem. Okay, so because of which the patient is completely aware as well as the patient is completely having the sleep and awakefulness cycles, but because of damage to the pons, the patient is not able to move his body. Only he can communicate through the vertical movements of the eyes or through convergence of the eyes. So this is known as pseudocoma or deafferented state or locked-in syndrome. Okay, so here the patient is awake and aware but cannot communicate verbally or through the movements of the hands and legs because they are completely paralyzed. Okay, except for the vertical movements of the eyes. So this happens because of pontine lesions happening to the ascending reticular activating system. Because of sparing the ascending reticular activating system. Because of sparing of ascending reticular activating system, the patient is completely aware. Okay. So next we will discuss about qualitative changes. So these are very, very important. Okay. So confusion. Confusion means the sometimes if we are drowsy, we are not, or sometimes we are very much tired. If you want to think something, it will take very long time to focus. Okay. So unable to think clearly or disoriented. So sometimes you used to hear in ICU patients, ICU psychosis or acute confusional state. So that is also known as delirium. So if that confusion is so severe, okay, causing disorientation and sometimes causing delusions and hallucinations. So that is known as delirium. So the symptoms will be mostly manifested when there is less amount of light or there is less amount of stimulation through light. That means towards the evening and night. So that's why delirium is also known as sundowner's phenomenon, sundowner's syndrome. Okay. So disorientation means what is meant before knowing disorientation, what is meant by orientation? Orientation means orientation of that of me in relation to surroundings or orientation of self in relation to surroundings. Okay, to person or place or time. Okay, so for example, if I want to say what is my orientation, I can say that I am sitting in front of you, that means through the laptop virtually at about 12:30. Okay, on Saturday, that is 18th of July 2020. That is orientation to time in second floor SPM department in Ashram Medical College, Eluru. That is orientation about place. Okay, person already told I am sitting in front of you and myself is the associate professor. Okay, or you self you are our students. So that is orientation to person. So this will all will be disturbed in disorientation from acute confusional states, which are also known as delirium. Somnolence means daytime sleepiness. So if these are outdated terms, moneroid state, twilight state, torpor. Okay, so moneroid state means it's a dreamlike state happening even the patient is awake. Twilight state means if it is a prolonged moneroid state. Torpor means, so this is actually defined after the patient has been in convalescent period, after the patient has been recovered from a severe febrile illness, for example, in typhoid. So during that phase, the patient will have difficulty in focusing. So that situation is known as torpor. So there are many terms for defining the consciousness. Okay, many physicians, many neurologists, psychiatrists will define one condition with different terms. So because of which there is a difficulty in communication. So for this, they developed what is known as Glasgow Coma scale. Okay, so mutism and akinesis, which we discussed, that is known as stupor. So stupor is a condition which is a combination of mutism. The person is completely mute and the person doesn't move, even though the brain, the awareness, the wakefulness cycles, they both are intact. Mostly stupor occurs in case of psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia, depression, even in organic disorders like epilepsy. So best way to describe a patient with altered sensorium is to elaborate on the current status and response to various stimuli in detail. So we already know Glasgow Coma scale, it is scored between 3 and 15. The maximum score is 15 and the minimum score is 3. And anywhere at 8 or below 8 is considered the patient is in coma. And it has three components, whether it is, we can remember by the mnemonic EVM. So eye response, verbal response, motor response. So EVM 4, 5, 6. Okay, eye response is 1 to 4. Verbal response is 1 to 5. Motor response is 1 to 6. Okay. And while describing Glasgow Coma scale, instead of telling that the person is having GCS score of either 5 or 7, better to tell the individual score in terms that the person is having eye opening with a score of either 1, verbal response with a score of 3, best motor response with a score of 6, like that. So if you tell, if you communicate like that, it will be very easier. So before going to questions about consciousness, we will discuss about the decorticate rigidity and decorticate posturing. Okay, so decorticate happens because of lesions above the, in the upper part of the brain, above the red nucleus. So that means the thalamus will be gone, internal capsule will be gone, but however basal ganglia will be intact. Okay, so we know that tone or power or muscle movements is controlled by the frontal lobe, that is motor component of the frontal lobe, basal ganglia and cerebellum. Okay, so in case of decorticate rigidity, only the frontal lobe is gone, frontal lobe motor part is gone, damaged. So because of which there will be less inhibition on the spinal gamma neurons. Okay, so because of less inhibition, the spinal gamma neurons will be acting more, because of which the person will be going to the flexor state. Okay, so there will be flexion of the upper limbs, flexion of the arm, flexion of the forearm, and flexion of the while the lower limbs will be in the extended posture. So this is typically like a mummy in the movies which we see in the mummy in the Egypt pyramids. So that's why there is also called as mummy baby or flexor posturing. Okay. Then comes the decerebrate rigidity, which happens because of damage in the below part of brain. Okay. So where there is a complete loss of inhibition. So because of complete loss of inhibition, the patient will be completely in extended posture. Okay. So from the upper limbs as well as the lower limbs, decerebrate rigidity. Okay. So the gamma neurons will be acting more and it causes rigidity of the body, but the rigidity is in the extensor posturing. Okay. So it happens because of lesions below the red nucleus, mid-collicular level. Okay. So Glasgow Coma scale. So you should present as a breakdown in the form of verbal response, eye response, and motor response, not as a sum. Unless if you want to tell which is extremely low or the GCS is completely normal, that is 15. Okay. We already discussed GCS score of equal or less than 8 is considered as coma. The coma can be either neurological causes or non-neurological causes like respiratory failure. Okay, so we already just discussing the questions. So which of the following is not a component of Glasgow Coma scale? So it is pupil size. Total score is 15. Prognosis in a head injury is best given by Glasgow Coma scale. However, there are other prognostic indicators like how much time the patient has lost consciousness, LOC time. Okay, so less time means more good prognosis, more time means bad prognosis. Okay, and post-traumatic amnesia we call it as. So how much the person has forgotten either prior events or current events after the head injury. So that also determines the prognosis. But most important is the Glasgow Coma score at the time of head injury. Okay. So next we will discuss briefly about emotions. Shall we discuss or shall we discuss in next class? Hello?
Next class. Next class.
Next class, you want in next class? Okay,
Yes,
so read, and if any questions, you can type or you can ask. Okay, in the next class. Any doubts? I think no one is ready to ask questions. Okay, I will end the class. Next class we'll continue the next in my class we'll continue the phenomenology on it, because this is the most important. If you understand this phenomenology, it is very easy for you to diagnose or to differential diagnose or differentiate the specific psychological disorders from the other organic or general other type of medical disorders. Okay, thank you.